we go. Now we're going to go through some sample problems dealing with drop, grade, and run, okay? And again, your formula sheet is in your folder with you. Make sure you're looking at it as you go through, because my helpful little hints are there for a reason. So the first thing today in your folder that needs to be handed in, you're going to be given a chart, right, that has run, drop, grade, and percent grade. And you'll be given some of the information, and you'll be asked to find the missing information. So for this first one here, we have a run of 12 feet and a grade of 1/4 of an inch per foot. We have to find the drop. Easy enough. We're looking at your formula sheet, and I say, oh, drop is grade times run. Well, there it is. Grade times run, 1/4 times 12. And our answer here will be in inches. Okay? We're running pipe for 12 feet. For every foot, we're just grading a little bit at 1/4 of an inch per foot, so the drop is 3 inches. The next missing information you have to find is percent grade. Drop divided by run times 100. Here's the hint here. Drop and run have to be in the same units, right? So right now our drop is in inches and our run is in feet. We know how to get feet to inches. 12 feet, 12 times 12 would be 144. So 3 divided by 144, 0.0208, times that by 100, 2.08%. I suggest you drag this out 2 decimal places. When you're in a multiple choice apprenticeship test, it will not be as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4 to choose from. They are going to put some decimals in there for you, okay? So 3 divided by 144 times 100, 2.08%. Okay, so there'll be a chart in there, and again, you'll be given some information. You'll follow your formulas to fill in the missing information. The next way it can be thrown at you, it will be the information will be written out, and you'll need to figure out what formula you need to use. So, by this time, we are getting a little bit better at reading word problems and figuring out what exactly the question is asking us, and that's always the first step. So, here it is. Calculate the grade. So, I'm looking at my formula sheet. Drop divided by run. My drop needs to be in inches. My run needs to be in feet. So, calculate the grade with a 4-inch drop and a run of 180 inches. So, before you do anything, inches to feet. The good news is, you know how to do it, right? So 180 divided by 12, we get 15 feet. Now we're ready to roll. 4 divided by 15, we get a decimal. We have to get that decimal to 1/8 of an inch. 0.27 times 8 gives us 2/8. We reduce, we all know how to reduce now, to 1/4 inch. So it's 1/4 inch per foot is your grade. Every foot of pipe's got to be graded at 1/4 of an inch because stuff's got to run downhill. Okay, sample problem 2. Find the drop when the run is 20 feet with a 2% grade, So, I'm looking at my formula sheet, and I'm looking at the formula that, looking for drop, where we're given the percent grade. So here it is here, percent grade times run divided by 100. Easy enough. Percent grade is 2 times the run of 20 divided by 100. Here's where it gets tricky. This number here is going to be in feet because this number was in feet. This is feet. We better know by now how to get your feet to inches. 0.4 times 12, 4.8 inches. And then we know how to get that pretty little decimal to 1/8 of an inch. We end up with the final answer of 4 3/4 inches. Okay? So it is a little tedious. The formula sheet will be in front of you. And you need to really watch what you're doing and make sure your numbers are in the proper ones they need to be before you use your formula. Now the next one, go way up the food chain here. This is going to be as difficult as it gets, but I have the utmost confidence in all of you. Here we go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a benchmark and what that is. A benchmark, when you go to the job site and they start the groundwork, the engineers have to pick a spot that they measure everything off. And they pick that spot in elevation. And the standard is 100-foot elevation is your benchmark. So that means your basement floor would be below that benchmark, and your first floor and your second floor and so on and so forth would be above that benchmark. So that benchmark is just a reference point where we start from. So when the place does get built and the plumbing gets done, we do hope that everything is straight and that stuff runs downhill. Okay, so this one is a little wordy and there's quite a few steps, so just bear with me here. A house drain has a run of 30 feet at a grade of 1/8 of an per foot. So there's a drain 30 feet away from a house, graded at 1/8 of an inch per foot. The low end has an elevation of 93.5 feet. What is the elevation at the high end? And you know my drawing skills here, so here's our little house. There's my little cottage, I guess. This drain is 30 feet away, and the elevation is 93.5 feet, and we know it's graded at 1/8 of an inch per foot. They're asking what the elevation is at the house, okay? So step one, we have to find the drop. Drop equals grade times run. Easy enough. 1/8 times 30. We get 3 3/4 inches, okay? Step two, we have to get our inches to feet. No problem, we know how to do it. First we get that fraction to a decimal, that's where that 0.75 comes from. Inches to feet, divide 12, 3.75 divide 12, 0.3125 feet. I'm just taking it 2 decimal places, we'd end up with 0.31. Step three, add to the low elevation. So down here, we're at 93.5 feet, and we want to know what the elevation is here, right? So 93.50 plus 0.31, 93.81 feet. Engineers measure. Okay, that's what that means. Feet, excuse me, in decimal parts of a foot, right? So, the engineers, I always say, aren't smart enough to get it to their tape measure, whereas you plumbers are. So, if we had to put that to builder's measure, we know that 93.5 feet is 93 feet 6 inches. And then we're adding 3 3/4 inches to that. So we end up with 93 feet, 9 3/4 inches, builder's measure. Feet, inches, fraction. Okay? I know it's a lot, but by now our word problem skills have come a long way. Make sure you read the question, make sure you know what units your numbers need to be in, and away you go. See you next time.